How are you feeling? How long have you been here? How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
What up, guys? How's it going? I hate that StreamYard doesn't just have it like with my nice, cool frame anymore. But StreamYard gonna StreamYard. What's up, guys? It's Wednesday, but it feels like Thursday to me for some reason. I feel like the week's almost half over, and sadly, we're not there yet. But I gotta tell you, tomorrow is gonna be a really busy day because we have 2 spy streams tomorrow. And I think I'm going to do kind of revolutionary book club tomorrow, which I was thinking of moving today, but then I decided that I just didn't feel like doing counter revolutionary book club today, and I decided to move it back to the day it's originally scheduled on, which is Thursday. Okay, so we are going to do counter revolutionary book club tomorrow. We are continuing to read Queering Anarchism. I'll tell you guys more about that in a second if you're new and you don't know what that is. But we do also have 2 spy streams tomorrow. We are going inside another man-hating cringe fest, and it's with different people this time. There are more groups than the Institute for Research on Male Supremacism that do cringy meetings about hating men. And there's another one of those meetings tomorrow around I don't know, what did I say? I think it's like 2:30, 2:30, something like that. We'll talk about the time. You guys will get emails about it, obviously. So we're going inside another man-hating cringe fest tomorrow, and that's going to be in the afternoon. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern time, we are doing counter-revolutionary book club. And then at 8 p.m., 7:30, 8 p.m., something like that, I'm going to do a rare public spy stream. So for those of you who have not become supporters yet, because I know you will someday, You know, I feel kind of bad sometimes for the people who can't join us for Spy Stream, because Spy Stream is really like the coolest thing that we do. Spy Stream is when we go inside live leftist trainings and we watch what they're saying live and we record it and show it to everyone. We oftentimes get some great clips from Spy Stream. For instance, just today, I posted this clip, and this is from last Friday's Spy Stream. Now, I already showed you this K through 12 public school equity coordinator in Vermont. Her name is Julia Lau. She works at the Hartford School District in Vermont, which apparently she has a $34,000 budget for diversity training, even though the Hartford, Vermont School District is like teeny, 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 tiny. Actually, can I just look that up real quick? How many students graduated from Hartford High School in Vermont this year? Let me chat GPT that. How many students graduate from Hartford, Vermont High School this year? Let's see how teeny tiny this school district with the $34,000 diversity budget is. Come on, ChatGPT, don't fail me. Come on. 113 students are graduating in the senior class at Hartford High School this year. And so you can imagine, if there's 113 students in the graduating class, what does that mean? Maybe like 500 students in the whole high school, which means probably around the, like, let's even give them up to 1,000. Maybe they have like an elementary school and a middle school with like 1,000 more kids. So we're talking about a school district, and I know this because I grew up in Vermont. This is how Vermont works. I went to an even smaller school district in Vermont. I only had 50 people in my graduating class. And so you might have an elementary school, middle school, high school. We're talking like 1,500 kids for a $34,000 equity budget. Does that seem a little disproportional? Hang on. Let's play a game called Fun with Math. We're doing this all improvised. We're doing this all on the fly right now, and I'm going to show you what she said in a second. Calculator. What is, no, I want the calculator. What is $34,000 divided by 1,500 students? That is $22 per student. $23 per student, apparently. I guess that makes sense. All right. So they're spending, $25 per student on equity. I don't know if that really means anything. But I do know this. Do you know what that money could probably be better used for? Buying books for kids. I'm going to bet you most of the kids in that school district don't even know how to read at a proficient level. Again, I grew up in Vermont. I know these things. I know how the schools work. I never thought I was like the smartest person in the world, but I graduated in like number 3 in my class without trying that hard. I had the number 2 SAT score in my class without trying that hard. It's not like Vermont public schools are turning out like amazing students just because, and that's not their fault, by the way. It's not the students' fault. It's the school district's fault for not doing their effing jobs. Anyway, that's a separate rant for another day. But do you know what this equity coordinator is doing? She's saying that she's not hiring people because of white privilege and white supremacy in Vermont. And I just think I almost didn't release this clip because I was like, this is so stereotypical. People aren't going to understand what it means, blah, 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 blah. But I had to, because I was like, you live in Vermont. Vermont is one of the whitest states in the country. And you're telling me you're not hiring the most qualified person at a teeny, teeny, tiny little school district in Vermont because you're afraid that they have white supremacy and white privilege? That's literally what this clip says. Let's go to my Twitter. We can watch it real quick just so you guys can see exactly what it says. Hang on. And if you're on Twitter, I would love for you to share this because no one is. Per usual, I get the best clips on the internet. And per usual, all of a sudden, the people who tweet about this stuff all day, every day, just don't want to share it because, they can't steal my shit anymore because I overly branded the video. Anyway, let's take a look. Let's take a look and listen to what was said.
What I'll say is I was just on a hiring committee, and there were 2 people of color on the hiring committee in a group of like 10. Which I don't think I've ever been a part of a hiring committee in Vermont where I had 2 people of color sitting at the table. And why that was important was we had all these candidates that looked great on paper and had interviews, and we interviewed them. And the group was like, oh my goodness, this person is the best person. I can't believe there'd be anybody better. And the other person of color and I looked at each other and were like, wow, are we missing something? Because both of us were like, this is not the person. And we talked about it some more, and we came to the conclusion that there is white supremacy happening in those cases where people are, because they look so good on paper, because they followed the track that you need to follow to become one of these higher ups, that they somehow should be the nominee, the candidate, because they have all the things that they're supposed to have. Where the people of color were looking at each other like, there's something off about this person. They're not actually equity minded, but nobody else could see that, right? There's like this like underlying piece of the white supremacy, I guess is the best way to say it. And so I think that's a really important.
She also goes on to talk about how she wants to have professional development training, again, paid for by the taxpayer dollar, based on the identity groups that people are in. So this is what's going on in public schools in Vermont. They're doing this. This was on Friday. This is the kind of stuff that we catch on Spy Stream, guys. No one else on the internet is showing you this type of content. No one else on the internet that I know of is bringing you inside live leftist trainings. And so we are the ones that find stuff like the K through 12 equity coordinator in Vermont talking about making hiring decisions based on white privilege. We're the ones that find things like the vice president of the Chicago Teachers Union openly organizing the May Day protest. By the way, this is the spy stream that we're doing tomorrow at 8 p.m. This is going to be the public spy stream because tomorrow, the same people that organized all the May Day events are now holding a debrief tomorrow. And so I'm going to spy stream that shit live on this channel, and it's going to be free for everyone. It's going to be a rare public spy stream. So if you want to see specifically what people like the Chicago Teachers Union VP says, a couple weeks ago, we caught him saying he wants to abolish the Constitution. He wants to get rid of democracy. He wants to shut shit down. This was all on an organizing call we infiltrated a couple weeks ago that no one else has footage of. This same equity coordinator in Vermont was openly talking last week about how she wanted to defy the Trump administration executive orders. We've got that video. We put that out there. There's so much stuff we've gotten on Spy Stream lately. We got the president of the National Education Association calling for teachers to leave the classroom on May Day, to abandon their jobs, to go protest in the streets. We got that on Spy Stream. Randy Weingarten was also on that Spy Stream, so we got that one too. We obviously have the Institute for Research into Male Supremacism that I'm still waiting to release more clips of because Substack's being Substack. But I am going to release more clips of it. We just had so many spy streams lately that I haven't even come close to releasing all the clips that I have. This is going to take a long ass time because there is so much organizing going on right now on the left. It is so difficult to keep up with everything that's going on. I'm trying to figure out ways to streamline processes and work more efficient, but it just is what it is. But we got people on video saying that they want to indoctrinate the youth and that they're saying that overtly. We got a Virginia Commonwealth University professor talking about deplatforming political opponents. We've got so much crazy stuff that no one else is talking about, that no one else is showing, except if you're over here, and then you get to see the good stuff. You get to see the good stuff weeks or months or years ahead of when conservative influencers figure it out. Maybe they'll get around to it, maybe they won't, but you'll already be informed. And so that's what we do on Spy Stream, guys. We go inside these trainings live and I show them to you. And if you want to join us, the best way to sign up for that is by heading over to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Spy Stream is usually, almost always, a supporter exclusive for members on my Substack, my locals, my Patreon, Twitter subscribers, or YouTube channel members. So if you are a paying supporter or have been gifted a membership on any of those platforms, you will receive the links to Spy Stream before the event on whatever platform you're a supporter on. So on YouTube, if you're a YouTube channel member, it'll be in the community tab. If you're a Twitter subscriber, I'll make a post on there. Obviously on Substack, Patreon, locals, I make posts on those platforms letting you know where we're spy streaming. So you can come and join us live. And it is actually really cool because sometimes we get to see the news or the next viral clip unfold live right in front of us. So you actually get to watch the news happen in real time, which is always a cool experience. We don't always get exciting things on Spy Stream, but usually we get at least one golden nugget that we can use to put out there, almost always. So we do have 2 spy streams tomorrow, guys. If you want the full schedule for that, head over to decodetheleft.com/events. And this is the events calendar. Can you guys see that? No, you can't. Of course you can't. Why would you be able to see the thing I want you to see? Why? Why would the internet work the way I want the internet to work? So you can always head over to decodetheleft.com/events. This has the full events calendar on it, so you know when to expect spy streams. We've also got a couple webinars coming up that I'm real excited about. But I do also want to remind everyone that I am doing a book club for my latest book, The Communist Manifesto, A Revolutionary Fairy Tale. This is a dystopian fairy tale based on the Communist Manifesto that I wrote. I think this is one of the best things I've ever written. I'm very proud of this. This is my version of 1984, Brave New World, Animal Farm. I think it's a really compelling story. It tells the story of a woman who kind of gets sucked into the leftist utopia, and she's involved in the revolution. She is the proletariat that overthrows the bourgeois and all that stuff, and they take control of the means of production, and they start to create their own little communist utopia. And then the book follows what happens after that. And although this is obviously a dystopian fiction, it is a fairy tale. I'm serious when I say that. A lot of the stuff that I talk about in this book is real. So, you know, you can draw your own conclusions there about the inevitability of what's going to happen during the communist uprising. Anyway, this book is great for all ages. There is nothing that would prevent like teenagers or people of all ages from reading it. There's no sexual content or anything like that. It is all, you know, it is all PG-13 at the absolute worst. I don't even think I have any PG-13 in this. I think there's a lot of violence. There's blood. There's things that are going to make people deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable, but there's no sex, there's no nudity, there's no stuff like that. So go pick up the book. You can buy it in Amazon, paperback or in Kindle. There is not an audio version because I have not recorded it. And you can come and talk about it with me and other people on May 21st. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it. And we're going to have a great little discussion. So you can sign up for that over at decodetheleft.com/events. And you can find the link there. Let me just put the link in the chat so you guys can find the place to sign up. I actually have it signed up on Eventbrite, which I've never used before, really. So we'll see how many people sign up for it on there. Anyway, so that's coming up. And then there's one more thing I want to talk about. So this happened actually right before I went live. I wasn't going to talk about this today. We're gonna watch a video about family abolition and child liberation. But right before I went live, the students at Columbia have decided to take over another building. Here we go again. That just last night, wasn't it, at the University of Washington? Or it was either last night or 2 nights ago. They set up their own Chaz. So for a brief time period at the University of Washington, there was a Chaz set up for Chaz is back. Well, it doesn't exist anymore, but it came back for a minute, and I bet you it's going to be back again before the summer's over. And now the students at Columbia University have taken over a building. I'm pretty sure. Hang on one second. I got to check. Hang on. Actually, I can do it this way. Hang on. So last year, so you guys, that is not what I wanted at all. That is not. I don't want to look up. Oh, come on, browser, ruining everything. Okay. Let me look up University of California. This. So last year on the Inner Circle podcast, which is the supporter exclusive podcast over on my my Substack, because I do actually have a supporter exclusive podcast. There was an incident last year that I covered that I don't think a lot of people covered. And basically what happened is during the encampments last year at the University of California, they took over the president's office. And at the time, the students at the University of California that took over the president's office and busted a whole bunch of shit up, they wrote it. They wrote it. What a word, Karlyn. Come on. They wrote a manifesto called Bonk, the University of California Office of the President Attacked. Let me just look at this. So this is an article in the San Francisco Standard. Cockroaches and vandalism, pro-Palestine group claims attack on UC president's office. And then, so you can see some of the damage they did there. This is all last year. So they spray painted stuff. They released cockroaches inside. But let me show you this. Bonk. Let me see if I can find it up. University of California. Because this should be on the anarchist library. Here it is. Bing. At the time, the students who took over the president's office wrote a manifesto. The reason that they wrote a manifesto that ended up on an anarchist website that then ended up in the anarchist library, and the reason I found out about it, I think, was that San Francisco Standard article. I covered it on the podcast last year. I read the whole thing. The reason that the left writes manifestos in situations like this is they're trying to inspire other leftist groups or communicate with other leftist groups to kind of like do the same thing. This is why the left always seems to be in sync, because what they do after they do direct action like this is they write manifestos and communiques, and they send them out to all the other leftist groups. Now, you guys can always Google yourself. I'm just saying, I'm going to share the link this time, but you guys are capable of Googling too. And so what they do is they write down basically, here's what we did, here's why we did it, here's what you need to know. Sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're shorter. And so this is how leftist groups always seem to coordinate with each other, because they're not working together explicitly, but after they do something, they publish information out to other groups to say, hey guys, this is what we did. And then the other groups look at that. And oftentimes this is why you see kind of the same thing happening across all the different college campuses, because this is how they're communicating. So we're not going to read this today. You want to know why we're not going to read it today? Because I literally read it over a year ago, almost a year ago. This was actually almost exactly a year ago, May 17th. Isn't that funny? This was almost exactly a year ago that they took over the president's office. So I just thought that this was a little bit funny that Columbia University Apartheid Divest, which of course is the group that's leading the protests at Columbia University, I just thought it was a little bit of funny because they decided to take over a building today. And obviously they did this last year. This is not Columbia University's first time taking over a building. You guys all remember that, what did they take over? They took over Hamilton Hall last year and they renamed it Heinz Hall. But let's just take a look at their Twitter account, because they are saying some things. And as always, when you're looking on Twitter, you want to go into the replies, because you not only want to see the initial tweet, you also want to see all. Oh, this is a new one. Yo, look at this. Look at this. When Columbia speaks of its rich history and commitment to upholding its values, these values, oh my God, I cannot believe they wrote this. These are the values it speaks of: death dealing, displacement, imperialism, segregation, colonization, Nazism, state violence, abductions, anti-Black racism, Zionism, and white Western hegemony. And guess what, guys? Those are basically all words for capitalism. 5 minutes ago. So I was trying to explain to people, leftists hate the universities. They hate the universities. Look, here's another one they wrote about. Here's another thread they wrote about how much they hate their own university. As long as Columbia University bolsters the violence of empire, we will disrupt your peace, shatter your notion of control. And if you escalate repression, we will escalate our disruption on campus. They hate universities because they think the universities are capitulating to capitalism. Today, we refuse the name Butler Library. Nicholas Murray Butler was a fascist who expelled student strikers and dined with Nazis. The library is a symbol of an imperial university that hoards knowledge and uses it in service of state power. And then I loved this one. Check this out. Why do we insist on revolutionary vocabulary? What's the power in a name? It's because we understand language as the first step in transforming the world. You don't say. You believe language is the first step in transforming the world? You don't say. I know we're all shocked at this revelation. So basically, apparently the students at Columbia are trying to rename Columbia Popular University. So that's an interesting tactic, I suppose, that will definitely equate to the value of their degree. Let's look at this other thread. I haven't even been able to catch up with all the threads they've been posting lately. Understand, the sharpening of repression is only a distraction from genocide. No, retreating into the institution is not safety. Refusal to act is not safety. Sitting quietly for your finals is not safety. These betrayals will not save you from imperial violence. Oh, they're really going off. These refusals mean giving yourself to the institution, to the state, to the empire. It teaches them that you are a human being, willing to be subdued, able to be bribed into silence, complacent when made to be a cog in the war machine. We all have agency, and we can refuse. So refuse. Yo! I read ahead. Does anyone see the C word? So refuse participation, refuse labor, refuse silence, refuse consent to slaughter, refuse to allow your education to serve capitalism. Refuse loudly, refuse boldly. Embody your refusal in your praxis. Make it visible. Make it unavoidable. They are telling you they hate capitalism. They are telling you their university is capitulating in capitalism. They're telling you if you're just going along and you're not disrupting the university and you're just taking your finals, then you are literally participating in the oppressive capitalist system. Because these are socialists. These are communists. They always have been. They're not. Have we seen any mention of the Jews yet? I know we saw Zionism, and the Jews are desperately trying to convince people that if you are not a Zionist, that means you're anti-Semitic. But I haven't seen any mention of Jew hate on their entire Twitter account. We continue to struggle today because we remember that what Basil taught us. Basil did not call on us to be resistance fighters, nor did he call on us to be revolutionaries. Oh, so they're admitting the revolutionaries. Great. Basil told us to be true. That is all. If you are true, you will be revolutionaries and resistance fighters. They're calling themselves fucking revolutionaries. Are you serious? Why isn't Donald Trump deporting all the foreign students involved in Columbia University apartheid divest? They're literally calling themselves revolutionaries. They are stating explicitly that they are revolutionary communists. This entire thread is a confession that they are revolutionary communists. It is actually legal to deport them for being revolutionary communists. It is currently written into the law of the United States that they can legally deport all of these students for being revolutionary communists. Where's the outrage, conservatives? Where are the calls for deporting all of them, conservatives? I don't want to deport them for speaking out against Israel. I don't give a fuck about Israel. I don't care if they speak out against Israel. I care that they're revolutionary communists. That they're admitting 25 minutes ago on their Twitter account. They are not participating in the capitalist system. They are revolutionary communists. You can deport every foreign student involved in this for being a revolutionary communist, and it is perfectly legal in the United States to do that. It's already written into the law. So why aren't we doing it? You want to get serious about deporting people that really we shouldn't want here? Here you go. Silver platter. Trump administration. Go. Will they do it? No, because there's no anti-Semitism involved. And they will only deport people when they're anti-Semitic, even though they're not anti-Semitic. They just don't want to support Israel. What a time to be alive. Anyway, let's continue. Follow the lead of the Palestinian people and remember that we are capable of bringing down tanks with the smallest stone. Remember, we're capable of building a liberated world as large as we allow ourselves to imagine. And we have a duty to dream bigger than petitions and rallies. They're talking about communist revolution. It's our duty to rise to this moment for the people of Gaza. It's our duty to escalate. It's our duty to be brave. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Let's see what else they're tweeting. We already read that. Oh, POV, chanting with your comrades in the liberated zone. Do I need to go to the White House and draw the fucking Trump administration a map? Is that what we need to do? I'll be like, Trump administration, if they're saying they hate capitalism and they're calling themselves revolutionaries and they're calling each other comrades, they are communists that are trying to overthrow our society, and therefore, ergo, you can deport their asses. Can we please focus? Please. Because all I heard, and I know you were all there with me, all election season, Kamala Harris is a communist. Kamala Harris is a communist. We have to defeat communism in the United States. We'll defeat communism when we defeat Kamala Harris. Guess what? Kamala Harris was never a communist. The real communists are right here. They were the ones protesting last year. They're the ones protesting in the streets all the time. They're the ones leading the protests right now via Columbia University Apartheid Divest. They're fucking telling you they're communists on their Twitter account in real time. They're not hiding it. So can we please deport them? I don't think I'm asking too much. It's infuriating. It really is. It is infuriating. Vandalizing everything. Here, they're live tweeting this. They're live tweeting it in real time. At least one individual has been arrested so far, all out to Columbia to defend the popular university. Public safety is giving protesters an ultimatum: show your ID or be arrested. So they've got video right there. It took the administration weeks to move Mahmoud and Mohsen in an email. Funny how fast they move when it's time for insurgency. The Columbia University security is already sending out stuff out. Let's see what else they have. Within Our Lifetimes is protesting them. So basically, all the groups in my campus insurrection report, which you can download at decodetheleft.com, decodetheleft.com/campus. This one right here. This is a report that I wrote a couple weeks ago and released a couple weeks ago that outlines literally all the different groups organizing the student protests. Well, maybe not all of them, but all the major ones, because there are always minor ones. But I got like 30 different groups in there. And so in this document, you will find information on groups like Within Our Lifetime. You'll find information on Columbia University Apartheid Divest. You'll find information on all these groups because they all work together. Look at that. Oh, all the major leftist groups coordinating all at once. Who could have seen that coming? I was arguing with a conservative yesterday, and I'm actually communist jumped it, and I think you mean an actual communist. Okay, an actual communist jumped in to tell them that I was correct. Even a legit communist telling them that Democrats aren't. No, but this is the thing. We've seen this happen more than once where we try to tell conservatives, we're like, communists hate Democrats. Communists hate Democrats. No, really, communists hate Democrats. And conservatives are like, Democratic Party is run by communists. And that's exactly the tone of voice they use, by the way. I'm not even exaggerating. That is exactly the tone of voice they use every single time. The Democrats are communists. Like, seriously, it's like that every time. Or at least that's how I hear it in my head. Maybe it's just me. And you can have actual communists come along. And we've seen this more than once, say, nah, bro, they're right. We don't like Democrats. And conservatives will go, you're a Democrat. I swear to God. It's so bad that over on my website, which is decodetheleft.com, you can go to decodetheleft.com. I got so pissed off at conservatives that I literally drew them a picture. I literally made them a map. I said, conservatives, here is what it means to be a Democrat, and here's what it means to be a revolutionary socialist, and here are all the different steps in between. You can find this image at decodetheleft.com/map. Like, no, they're not the same in any way. Oh, but it doesn't matter. The conservatives be like, they're all Democrats. Look, okay, an hour ago, we rejected imperialist economy and knowledge. We invoke the legacy of liberation and the philosophy of direct action. I don't know who this. Oh, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, check this out. Within an hour of taking over the building on campus, the Columbia students have issued a set of demands. So you're telling me that upon taking over a building on their college campus, that they were already prepared with a set of demands. Do you know what that means? They know why they're protesting. Because this is another talking point conservatives always like to have. They always post these videos. What conservatives do is they go to protests and they find like one person that doesn't understand why they're there, and they put that person on camera going, hey, why are you here? What are you protesting for? And the person goes, I don't, and the person doesn't say anything. And then conservatives put that video out of that one person and they go, they don't even know why they're protesting. But in reality, in the real hinged into reality world, they always know why they're protesting. Every single leftist protest has demands. And I assure you, they're going to be on a sign somewhere. They're going to be on a pamphlet somewhere. They're going to be distributed somewhere, because literally, and I've sat in on trainings where they teach leftists how to do this, literally in trainings that leftists have, they teach them how to write demands. I sat in on a whole training for it at the Socialism 2023 conference. So they always know why they're protesting. This is why you never listen to anyone who says they don't even know why they're protesting. That person's a bullshit artist. Just because conservatives don't know why they're protesting doesn't mean the left doesn't know why they're protesting. Just because conservatives don't agree with the reasoning the left has doesn't mean the left doesn't know why they're protesting. These are two very distinct groups. They have two very distinct values. The left does not understand the right does not understand the left. So you don't listen to reporting from right-wing nut jobs or just grifter shills or apologists for Israel or any of these people who want to sell you something on the internet. You don't listen to people who don't actually listen to the left because they don't know what they're talking about. Leftists always have demands. So that's another thing. Let's see. Let's continue to go down their Twitter account. Doing live up. Oh, here's video. Hang on. I'll set up the sound on this so you can hear it. Hang on. This is them taking over the library. Play video. So that was a real quick video there. Let's go back. See what else. Oh, they're putting flyers all around. They've got newspapers all around. Oh, they don't like it. Are you telling me that communists don't like the New York Times? Say it ain't so. Here's another one. They're basically setting up their own Chaz in the library. They're setting up their own Chaz. Oh, look, Eric Adams announces the NYPD is on their way. Oh, wow. So, oh, great. What could possibly go wrong? They've called in the NYPD? Yeah, that's totally going to end well. That's totally not going to escalate the problem. That's absolutely not going to escalate the problem, exactly like it escalated the problem last year. These people learned nothing. Learned nothing. They never learned. And for people who don't know what I'm talking about, the Columbia encampment last year was actually a relatively contained protest until the Columbia administration called in the NYPD. And then the day after they called in the NYPD, the Columbia encampment quadrupled in size. And so what just happened? You had 100 students taking over a library. Now, that's annoying and wrong, and it should have been handled. I'm not suggesting those students shouldn't be punished, but what I am suggesting is that maybe what could have happened is security could have surrounded the library and just gotten all their ID cards and then shuffled them out of the building. They didn't need to call in the cops, because I promise you, calling in the cops is going to make more protesters by a significant degree. So you've taken a problem that maybe could have been contained a little bit better. Yeah, you had some loud, annoying people, but it was still like a manageable problem. And mark my words, what's going to happen? Same thing happens every time. It's about to go. Oh, man. And guess what? Has graduation already happened at Columbia? No, this is finals week. This is finals week. When is graduation at Columbia? I'm going to bet it's in the next week or two. Let's see. Let's see, ChatGPT. May 21st. What did I say? 2 weeks. These students launched this 2 weeks before graduation. Golly gee. I wonder, do you guys think they're going to try to make a big ass spectacle at graduation? Do you guys think, hang on a second, let's play chess for a moment. Do you guys think these protesters launched this little baby protest where they were loud and annoying 2 weeks before graduation, knowing that the Columbia University administration was going to call the cops on them, knowing that if the Columbia University administration called the cops on them, that would like double, triple, quadruple the size of the people protesting, knowing that people are just going to get more and more and more and more and more riled up over the next 2 weeks for graduation, where they're either going to cancel the graduation again for the second year in a row entirely, or there's going to be some big ass spectacle at graduation because they've spent the last 2 weeks riling everyone up. They never learn. Never, ever learn. Never learn. Have there been any more updates since we've been on the air? Let's see. Let's see what else they posted. Oh, look at this. Breaking 17 seconds ago. Okay, what's happening?
Off the door!
Open the door!
Go to jail!
Comrades be let out. Oh.
Off the door!
Open the door!
Go to jail!
All right.
Open the door! Go to jail!
I just want to point out that if people listen to the things that I said, they would probably save themselves a lot of effing headaches. So that's what's going on at Columbia. We will continue to keep an eye on the new uprising at Columbia. But there's something else I want to watch. So something funny showed up in my YouTube recommendations today. It's okay if child liberation and family abolition makes you uncomfortable. Let me just play the first couple seconds of this so you guys can get a flavor for the voice of this person. Okay, is everyone ready? Okay, sounds up. Everyone ready to listen to the voice of this person? Listen.
It is Devin Price again, and I am here with another video.
What do we think that voice is? Do we think there's anything significant or special about that voice that might give us a clue about the nature of this video? Yeah, it kind of sounds like a trans person. Yep. Sounds like someone's on hormones. Sounds like a testosterone female voice. Trans. Yep. And then I was like, who is this Devin Price person? And so I went to the profile. Dr. Devin Price. Is this person actually a doctor? Oh, this okay. And then I clicked on this. and I was pointed to a Tumblr. A Tumblr? I didn't even know Tumblr still existed, so that seemed promising. And the Tumblr pointed not to the Substack, hang on, to this. The Tumblr pointed to this, where fagotization and the extant gender ternary, I don't know, on the gender sub, I don't know what this means. And the 3 gender system, what the does that mean? What is that? Oh, you guys can't see this. You guys can't see the best part. Hang on. Sorry, my bad. My bad. My bad. My bad. Here's what we're on. This is their website. This is their Tumblr website. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Buzz cut hair dye. Okay, that's a queer haircut. This is from May 7th, 2025. Log on to Tumblr and you learn that cowboys are secretly leftist and pirates are secretly leftist and superhero comics are secretly leftist and Vikings are secretly leftist and Greco-Romer and blah, 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 blah. Everyone is secretly leftist, da, 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 something fascism, blah, blah, blah. All Israeli soldiers are war criminals. Well, you know, broken clock is right twice a day. So they've got some sort of Tumblr thing going on here that looks a little bit queer. I don't know. Seems suspicious. And I'm especially suspicious every time I see a video with the title, "It's okay if child liberation and family abolition makes you uncomfortable." But then I looked at other videos on Devin's account, which is it seems to be a non-binary name. Abolish age, anarchy, family abolition, and child liberation. This was a month ago. Interact with minors. What does that mean? This person has a Substack with 20,000 plus subscribers. Basically their videos, I think. So I thought we would watch this person's video because, you know, well, I have some questions, and I think that maybe if we listen to these videos, we can get our questions answered. And so that's what we're going to do. And listen, man, we'll keep an eye on the insurgents over at Columbia. We'll keep an eye on what's going on there. But do you guys want to watch some crazy queer Tumblr, like child abolition, family abolition nonsense? Do you guys want to do that for a little while? Can we do that? I think that'd be a pretty cool way to spend some time. Guys, please go ahead and mount the like button for me. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. And as always, of course, also please make sure you're subscribed to my Substack. That is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. You can sign up as a free subscriber always. You can also support the work I'm doing for $8 a month, $80 a year. I'm 100% funded by you, so I would really appreciate it if you feel like supporting independent journalism that will actually show you what's going on. So now let's pick up this video. Let's see what's going on. Let's set up the sound. Let's set up the sound. Is anyone else scared? I'm feeling slightly scared myself. I'm feeling a little apprehensive. I'm feeling like I need to breathe through the discomfort. This is like a moment where we are feeling the fear and we're doing it anyway. All right. Feel the fear and do it anyway. This can train you for later uncomfortable moments in life. This is what we train for, these moments. Let's get this party started.
Version of one of my Substack essays. This is another one about child liberation and family abolition. And it's called "It's Okay If Child Liberation and Family Abolition Make You Uncomfortable." I'm going to be reading the piece out loud to you here with the piece on the screen for you to follow along and providing some video descriptions and visual descriptions of images in the piece for all of our blind and driving and other viewers who can't
blind
look at the
and
screen at this time
driving.
but want to hear the piece read out loud to them.
Blind
So
and
thank you
driving.
everyone for all of the encouragement so much about of making these formats so far. I've really been enjoying doing them. It's a very accessible way to put more video content out there for me, and my plan is to adapt a lot of my major essays, my most popular essays, into this format. So please give me any feedback you have on that and how this is working for you, or any pieces that you'd like to see adapted.
Also, what's this? Why is there a deer? This really feels like a question I shouldn't even have to ask. Why is there a deer on the screen? Yeah, looks like a furry. Yeah, it does. Yeah, probably a furry. Yeah, furry. Mm-hmm.
And I'll try to put those at the top of the list. All right, I'm going to just switch to my screen share right here and pull up the piece. It's on drdevonprice.substack.com. And again, it's called "It's Okay If Child Liberation and Family Abolition Make You Uncomfortable."
Wait. Bot just pointed out that, so you see this person has a mole right here on their face. Look what the deer has. The deer has a mole. All right, moving on.
List. All right, I'm going to just switch to my screen share right here and pull up the piece. It's on drdevonprice.substack.com. And again, it's called "It's Okay If Child Liberation and Family Abolition Make You Uncomfortable." Ask questions, acknowledge your feelings. These are the growing pains of considering a radically new idea. Our first image at the top of this piece is a stock photo from Unsplash of a aerial shot of a family on a picnic blanket, a mom, a dad, and a kid. And I've used a glitch image generator to make it look a little bit distorted. I remember that I first encountered the concept of family abolition on Tumblr when I was about 24 or 25 years old.
Tumblr.
And that it made me massively uncomfortable. To remove the system.
At some point, can we just put this on the list of like the 11,000 research projects we have to do? At some point, I want to figure out how we can find all of this queer shit that started appearing on Tumblr in like the 2000s. Because here's what happened. So queer Marxists started publishing zines as propaganda in like the 60s. They continued throughout the 70s, but the zine thing really blew up in the 80s. So in the 80s, there is a massive quantity of queer zines that started to get published. In the 90s, even more. All these queer zines going around, like being published all over the place to talk about the different queer theory ideas. So if you guys think that this is something that just showed up in like the last 10 years, this did not show up in the last 10 years. This was being published in queer Marxist subcultures for decades and decades and decades. So in the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, they were kind of doing it the old-fashioned way, where they were making zines and they were doing these like small batch like printing things. They were putting PDFs and digital copies online. They were handing them out at protests and doing all the things that they do. In the 2000s, it's not that they stopped producing zines, but if you look at like we have an archive of these things in one of my secret discords that only some people know about, and what we saw is there was a massive decrease in the number of zines that came out in the 2000s. So why might that be? I think it's because they were doing all this stuff on Tumblr. I think that all the stuff that they were doing in the zines, they moved online, and specifically, I think that they did a lot of this stuff on Tumblr. So I don't know if it's possible to like go back and find Tumblr archives of this stuff. I really have no idea, like, if there's any way that we can access this information now, like stuff that they were doing on there in the 2000s. But I think that that's going to be, if we can figure that out, like a treasure trove of information. Yeah, well, okay, this is just not true though, because I know this started before then. So ChatGPT is wrong on that one. I mean, it's cool that like it has an answer, but like I would bet all the money in my bank account that it started way before that. Maybe it was on a different site before that, but I want to find like where were they publishing this stuff in the 2000s, and I'm betting you it was Tumblr.
System of protection and nurturance that guide a young child's life seemed to me to create a horrifying vacuum of meaning into which absolutely anything could climb and take advantage. Without the structure of the family, who would prevent a child from being abused by any and every random adult that ever had access to them? I wondered. And how could a child ever be expected to get ahead in life if they didn't have multiple loving relatives devoted to their well-being, who spoke to them, read to them, taught them how to cook and to clean, how to balance a checkbook, drive a car, and distinguish good from bad? I myself had been a survivor of multiple assaults, including some intense violations when I was a child, so I found the whole concept triggering. I knew that not every person could be trusted around children, and that young people were naive and largely powerless, and so they needed someone to defend them. That some people wanted to see a child's only source of safe belonging taken away from them outraged and terrified me. The irony was that my own early experiences of sexual violation had come from one of my parents. And for all that I had
You don't
stressed about the
say.
need for family members to pass on important life lessons to their children, I had needed to
This is actually one of the key arguments of the Abolish the Family activists, which is that we should abolish the nuclear family because the nuclear family is inherently dangerous because kids are more likely to be abused in their family than they are not in their family.
train myself in so many skills. My eating disordered, ARFID afflicted relatives had no capacity to teach me how to meal plan or to cook, let alone know how much that I should eat. My father was verbally abusive during the 2 driving lessons that he tried to give me, and I only just figured out the basics of how to clean after watching this wonderful how-to video from an autistic house cleaner and YouTuber earlier this year.
Wait, what?
This is a video from a channel called Midwest Magic Cleaning,
Hang
and
on.
the title of the
Hang
video
on.
is
Hang on. You're complaining because you just learned how to clean? You're complaining because you just learned how to clean. Do you know what it's like to grow up with a clean freak for a mother? Like, do you know the trauma that was inflicted on me by having to learn how to clean at all times, in every way, all the time? Everything had to be in its place. Nothing could be out of place. If something was out of place, there was a big fucking freak out. Things clean behind my back, things thrown out behind my back. So much of my stuff thrown out by my clean freak mother that she shouldn't have thrown out because she felt like fucking cleaning that day just to do something. Like, do you know the trauma that was inflicted on me by my mother cleaning too much? And this bitch wants to complain about, I never even learned how to clean a toilet. Cry me a fucking river. Watch a YouTube video. It's not that hard.
this should be required viewing before graduating high school. Cleaning is not intuitive. And I encourage you to watch this video.
Cleaning is
It has a
not
lot of important
intuitive.
lessons on how to go about keeping your house clean that make it a lot less intimidating. Certainly helped me a lot. I learned from this video that
Do you know how much cleaner my house would probably be today if I wasn't in a constant state of rebellion against my childhood growing up with a clean freak mother? This is like, I'm serious. This is an issue. If you are a clean freak, don't inflict this on your children, because I promise you, when they grow up and they buy their own house, they're going to follow. Because here's what my mother always used to say. You can tell I have issues. I'm working them out on the internet right now. This is what my mother always used to say. She always used to be like, when you live in your own house, you can do whatever you want, Karlyn, but as long as you live in my house, you're going to follow my rules and you're going to clean and and so guess what? When I bought my own house, I decided that no, I didn't want to clean all the time. And guess what happened? Every time my mother comes over, she cleans my entire fucking house. And inevitably, every time my mother comes over and waits until we leave the house, she cleans the entire house and throws away a bunch of shit that she shouldn't throw away. One time, I swear to God, one time, Victor and I went on a cruise like, or we went on some vacation in like the middle of winter or something. I forget exactly what it was. So Victor and I go on vacation. My mother comes over to dog sit the dogs. Not only while we were gone, not only does my mother clean the entire house and throw out a bunch of stuff she shouldn't have thrown out, my mother actually lost a shovel. Like a really effing nice shovel, because we live in New Hampshire. We used to have a really nice shovel. It was one of those shovels where like you didn't have to bend over. It was one of those. And the shovel disappeared after my mother cleaned the house. I am fairly certain my mother decided we didn't really need that shovel and took it to the dump and threw it away. Like, I can't tell you. Like, they're like, Karlyn, how much are you gonna rant about this? How long do you fucking have? The trauma of a clean freak mother. She threw away a shovel. I say this with love. My mother is not a bad woman, okay? My mother is not a bad woman. But she has this issue that was deeply traumatic and life impacting for me, okay? Yeah, it's like losing a ladder. Exactly. It's like, where the fuck did Victor Victor just texted me from the downstairs. Victor just texted me and he was like, what about the scissors? Because we used to have this pair of scissors in the kitchen that came with like this knife set, and we come back and the scissors are gone. And we're like, where the fuck are the scissors? Because we actually used those scissors and like everything was put in its place except the scissors were gone. Do you want to know what happened? My mother thought she broke the scissors when in fact the scissors were designed to come apart. Like, so you could take them apart and like have them in separate pieces. That apparently happened. And my mother didn't realize that the scissors were designed to come apart. And so she threw them away. She fucking... We were like, where the fuck are the scissors? Oh, I threw them away. I broke them. Oh, that you didn't actually break them though. They're designed to do that. That wasn't true. That was... Anyway.
Dishwashing soap is one of the most powerful and yet gentle cleaners you can possibly have. And so you can replace basically half of the cleaning supply aisle at the grocery store with just dish soap and a little bit of water and be basically fine, and use that to clean your house. And I've been following that tip ever since. Another irony about my fears of family abolition that only became clear to me in retrospect was that at the time, I had already known that most people's fears of crime and predation do not track with statistical reality. Though decades of sensationalistic true crime media have made the public fearful that a violent stranger is forever lurking in the bushes ready to ambush them, and they feel increasingly unsafe, in reality, the violent crime rate has been on...
Listen, you might think that this would work to make a rule. Joanne, just don't throw anything away. Just don't throw anything away. I'm not asking too much. If you have questions about something, put it aside. We'll deal with... Don't throw away that shovel. But no, it doesn't work, Chase. It doesn't work. Because when you have a clean freak mother, any instruction you give her will be instantly discarded the moment that she gets a chance to clean. Okay?
On a decline in the United States since at least the early 1990s. And the majority of people who do victimize others are known to the victim and relied upon by them. It is our parents, brothers, boyfriends, bosses, priests, wives, mothers, and the cops who are by far the most likely to harm us, not some passing stranger on the street. And this is a link to a piece by me about that idea called "Your Fear is Dangerous and Your Power is Greater Than You Think." It drove me mad that members of the public did not realize that it was the people who held power over them who had the greatest capacity to harm them, and instead voted to increase policing budgets, covered their properties in surveillance cameras, and called the authorities on random black kids in their neighborhoods, all in the pursuit of feelings of safety that were completely detached from reality. I was a hardcore prison abolitionist already, working to get the solitary confinement prison in Tams, Illinois shut down, and reading heart-rending letters from inmates every day. So it sickened me that people's greatest insecurities were being used against them to create more and more powerful systems of state violence and coercive control.
Oh my God.
And yet, there I was, just as confused in my reactions, thinking that it was the family that protected children from predation,
Oh, here
when
we
my
go.
own experience had shown how often the opposite was the case. When my dad was behaving in sexually inappropriate ways with me as a teen, I had trustworthy relatives that I could have turned to, and adults that I knew at work and school who would have been happy to explain the practicalities of adult life to me and help me build my independence. But doing something so extreme as breaking away from my family was never a thought in my mind. I wasn't going to set out on some intimidating, dramatic legal emancipation process. I needed my family to help me get through high school, to give me a place to live, some food to eat, access to a car for my part-time job, a signatory so that I could have a bank account. The kids I knew who were emancipated couldn't go to college because they didn't have parents to fill out a FAFSA. And that's the free application for federal student aid. For those of you outside the US. They didn't get good educations or get to participate in any extracurriculars. All of their lives turned out incredibly bleak. Usually they got pregnant before turning 18 at the hands of some 30-year-old drunk fanatical Christian with a manufacturing job who kept a roof over their heads until the Ford plant shut down and then moved them halfway across the country where they were even more isolated. To try and assert myself against my family in any way meant destroying the entire foundation for my identity and future and dive into an unforgiving abyss. I wasn't foolhardy enough to do that. I wasn't abused enough, or by everyone, so I couldn't justify such a dramatic rupture of my entire life. Where I lived, who I knew, what my name was, how I prayed, the work that I did then as a landscaper, the accent I had, what money I had, the words I used, the beliefs I carried, my goals, all of it came from my family. I couldn't just leave all of that. And yet, by the time I did turn 18, I had resolved to stop speaking to my father forever and cemented that decision by changing my last name on my birthday. I moved away from my hometown as quickly as I possibly could. I had needed to slip loose of the confines of the family. But because there was nothing in the world to replace it, no system of meaning or structure of support that could help me figure out who I was or how I might get by in life, doing so felt almost violently self-destructive. The family that protects is also the one that imprisons. But that is too world-shaking and upsetting a realization for most people to make easily. It certainly was for me. And so I had to think on the family's defects, despite having lived it for many years. I debated with anarchists and family abolitionists online, not really making salient points, just expressing that the idea of granting children full legal personhood was freaky and perverted sounding to me.
Yup.
I asked a lot of questions about who would look after children in the family's absence and how society would ensure that everybody was adequately taught and looked after. And to my surprise, rather than getting frustrated, the anarchists that I spoke to said that these were very good questions, ones that we all needed to think about and build solutions for, because society was already failing at such important things. I wrote a lot of anguished, hand-wringing posts in which I said that something had to be there to look after children, as if I were praying to some god of reasonable authority to come down and set everything right. But there was no such god. There never had been. If there had been, my dad wouldn't have looked my nude teenaged body all up and down hungrily and declared himself proud that he hadn't done anything further.
Gross.
I also started learning a whole lot more about abuse. I read Lindsay Gibson's book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, and recognized that no living person in my family knew how to handle big emotions and had reacted with tension and distance anytime that I seemed too joyful, angry, or sad until I became incapable of expressing such things. I read Albert Bernstein's How to Deal with Emotionally Explosive People and saw my father's emotional volatility thrown into sharp relief, and discovered just how much work I'd done as a kid to parent and therapize him. I read Kenneth Adams' book, Silently Seduced, about child survivors of covert incest, and it slowly dawned on me just how much my mind had been warped by serving as a parent's sole confidant, quasi-spouse, and best friend. After that, I found Lee Edelman's more radical text, No Future, Queer Theory and the Death Drive, which is all about the ways in which our society treats children not as
Music Ann, have you read that? Queer Theory and the Death Drive?
complete people, but as future reproducers of the society itself. According to Edelman, it is through the rearing and indoctrination of children that a culture continues to pass along its existing values and structure,
You don't say.
as
That's
if,
social
as if
reproduction
it were
theory.
stamping messages of propaganda onto blank screens.
That's social reproduction theory for people who don't know. Social reproduction theory is why the left wants to abolish the nuclear family, because they believe that capitalism is literally reproduced in the nuclear family. Because when you raise kids to have capitalist values, you basically are priming them to insert them into the capitalist system. So the only way to abolish capitalism is to stop raising kids with capitalist values, and therefore, ergo, you have to destroy the nuclear family and have a queer polyamorous family of choice. The citations show up everywhere. Listen again.
Continues to pass along its existing values and structure, as if it were stamping messages of propaganda onto blank screens. This image here is just the covers of the 4 books that I just mentioned: Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents by Lindsay Gibson, How to Deal with Emotionally Explosive People by Albert Bernstein, Silently Seduced, When Parents Make Their Children Partners by Kenneth Adams, and No Future, Queer Theory and the Death Drive by Lee Edelman. What the child wants or feels simply does not matter to society. They are but a breeding chamber for reproducing existing ideas, providing future labor, and eventually birthing the next generation of kids.
There it is, right there. Where is this? What the child wants or feels does not matter to society. The children are but a breeding chamber for reproducing existing ideas, providing future labor, that means being future oppressed workers under capitalism, and eventually birthing the next generation of kids who will also be indoctrinated to believe what their parents before them believe, to live as their parents lived. That is what social reproduction theory is. If you have kids and raise kids with capitalist values in a capitalist society, those kids will therefore reproduce capitalism. So if you want to abolish capitalism, which is, of course, is always the left's goal with everything they do, you need to abolish the family, because the family is the reproduction mechanism of capitalism. People think that when they say they want to abolish capitalism, they just want to take over the means of production. But the means of production for them are no longer the factories. You can have huge businesses without having a factory, okay? And so, do they want the factories? Well, sure, they're going to take the factories too. But the real means of production that they want to take over are the people. The real means of production is the family, because family is where the cultural system of capitalism is reproduced. That's what they're talking about here. Let us know if you have questions.
Who will also be indoctrinated to believe what their parents before them believed, to live as their parents lived. And so, we are all societally trained to be very conservative about children, exposing them to new and unfamiliar ideas or exploring new ways for them to live feels like a terrifying act of destruction toward society itself, because, in a way, it is. Anyone who does not treat children as if they are seed pods for familiar ideas and well-worn cultural practices risks being seen as a perversion of the existing social order and a threat to all that we know and hold to be unquestionably true. What most people are missing, however, is that this can be a good thing. The open existence of queer people makes it harder for society to teach children that heterosexuality is natural and right.
Wait,
Telling children that
what? The open existence of queer people makes it harder for society to teach children that heterosexuality is natural and right. When they mean heterosexuality, they don't mean straight people. Everyone understands that, right? When they say heterosexuality, they mean like normies. They mean people who are in capitalist relationships, like marriage.
often the police kill innocent people and that racism is widespread makes it less likely they will grow into adults who support our existing police state. Admitting to young people that the adults do not actually know everything and that the laws of our land were not designed to be fair, but were mostly cobbled together by a series of profit motives and prejudices means that we can no longer
Capitalism.
decide for the kid what is right, and that they might adopt completely different morals from the ones we do and be better for it. The very structure of our society becomes very shaky beneath our feet, and we're terrified that we might all just
No, that's not what this is. Transhumanism is about it's about destroying the hierarchy between humans and the rest of like nature or whatever. But no, it is not about abolishing human existence. That is not what that is. Please don't joke around with stuff like that because there are actually definitions of these things and stuff like that's really inflammatory.
just tumble into a complete nothing world without any rules or commonly held values. And so we get uncomfortable when a person is too honest about the harsh realities of the world to a child, and nervously ask, how am I supposed to explain to a kid that queer people / genocide / white supremacy / injustice exist? Even if our actual politics are fairly radical and we do believe that our world needs to change, we have this intuitive gut feeling that we have to raise our children to feel that reality is just, that the structures around them are to be trusted, the rules to be followed, the people put in charge of them are safe. Because what will we do if none of that's true? I am here to tell you that's a very good question, and that all your reservations about the concepts of child liberation and family abolition are worth talking about. Don't dismiss how freaked out or confused you might feel. If you think some of what I'm saying is absurd or utopian, go ahead and say that to me or to somebody else. Just stay in the conversation. Follow
What you're saying is absurd and utopian, and you have not thought through the ramifications of your actions because you obviously have trauma in childhood that you haven't worked out yet. And a much better way to deal with this would be to go to therapy, find a good therapist. You can even find a queer therapist if you want to. I don't really care what kind of therapist you go to, but like working out your issues with your parents by abolishing the family is not actually the best thing to do on any level.
your questions through to wherever they lead.
In the Marxist utopia, the collective raises the kids. There are no parents. Parental rights are considered to be a form of private property under capitalism. All parental rights will be abolished. There are no parents.
Keep reading about these ideas and finding your own problems with them. I don't expect you to land exactly where I have wound up over time, and certainly my own mind is still wandering. I would just like you to grow. The whole basis behind these ideas is that there is no trustworthy authority who should rule us. We get to decide how we wish to live, what we believe in, and how we will solve problems. And we will make it our mission to allow as many people as possible to be equally free. But I understand that it's anxiety-provoking stuff. It's existentially and emotionally threatening. And so, if you still have major reservations with child liberation and family abolition, reservations that I very much myself did have, I want to give you the following reassurances. No one is trying to take your mommy and daddy away. Family abolition is about the eradication of the family as a system of owning people and transferring property.
Oh! Family abolition is about the eradication of the family as a system of owning people and transferring property. So, one of the reasons that socialists want to abolish the nuclear family is because they don't like that generational wealth can be passed from parent to child. Because what that means is when you're passing generational wealth, like your home or your land or any of these things, from parent to child, that means you are privatizing that resource, which means it is not available for the collective, which means if you're privatizing resources, some people are going to have more than others. Some people will have more homes than others. Some people will have more money than others. Some people have more cars than others, whatever it happens to be. And so because those resources are private, and that means that some have more than others, that creates a hierarchy. Capitalism, private property ownership creates all hierarchies because when you have capitalism, private property ownership, some people are always going to have more than others. The only way to create equity is a world without hierarchies, is to eliminate the thing that allows for private property ownership, which is capitalism. So when they're saying the transfer of property, they're talking about capitalism. That's what that means. When they're saying a system of owning people, queer Marxists are against marriage. Queer Marxists are against all marriage. Queer Marxists have never been in favor of gay marriage. Queer Marxists never campaigned for gay marriage. If you are a conservative, probably, and you think that abolishing gay marriage is a win for you, guess what? No one on this planet wants to abolish gay marriage more than queer Marxists. And I've proven that in Counter-Revolutionary Book Club over and over and over again. We have read document after document after document from queer Marxists saying, we never wanted gay marriage. What are you guys doing? This is stupid. Stop putting your resources into, and this was all before gay marriage was legalized. This was back around 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. In that time period before gay marriage was legalized. The reason they never wanted gay marriage or any marriage is because they believe that marriage is a form of propertied relationship where you literally own the person that you're married to and you literally own the children. This is why I harp on the definition of capitalism so much. It is critically important that people understand that capitalism means private property ownership, and that one of the things that they mean when they say private property ownership is your children, your parental rights. Parental rights are considered to be a form of private property. Every single attack on parental rights is because of this. It all goes back to this. Every single policy that your schools have where they don't have to tell you what gender your kids are identifying as at school is because of this. Every single state that has laws on the books that says if you don't give your kids trans-affirming hormones, the state can literally take your kids away. It is because of this. All attacks on parental rights come from the idea that they want to abolish parental rights entirely because they believe parental rights are a form of private property. They also believe that the gays shouldn't get married in the first place because they believe that when the gays get married, they are assimilating to normativity, which means they're assimilating to capitalism. It's not a good thing. Does anyone have any questions? Another reason they want to abolish the nuclear family is what it's called like community care, which means that when you are in the nuclear family, you only have access to the health insurance that your family has access to, whereas they want everyone to have access to all medical care at all times. So that's another reason. Those are the big three. in addition to, well, big four: social reproduction theory, transfer of property, parental rights as a form of property, and community care. Those are the big four reasons they want to abolish the nuclear family. Let us know if you have questions.
Legal financial family reinforces wealth inequality that exists on the basis of race.
See?
It forces women into caretaking roles and limits their economic and social freedom. It isolates people from wider communities, indoctrinates children into conservative beliefs, and is a tool by which society maintains itself as it presently is. If we were to abolish the legal construction of the family, you could still freely choose to love your Mima and Grandpa and spend all of your holidays with them. I promise. In fact, under such a reality, every person would be free to choose whom they love and trust. People would still have biological parents and often relatives that they knew, but family would not be determined by blood or by someone's name. If the people who raised you are lovely people with whom you share a close relationship, that is so great and you can keep them. You might also fold a close buddy or neighbor into your existing family structure if you like, too. Family abolition isn't coming anytime soon.
True.
I find that when I discuss any form of abolition, people get very anxious about what will replace the prison/family/educational system that we presently have, and they shut down from the conversation quickly with visions of wild running pedophiles and escaped convicts playing about in their heads. In these cases, I often want to comfort my conversation partner by reminding them that the ideas I'm talking about are still really niche and unpopular. Nobody is coming to take your family away. Thus, there is absolutely zero harm in having a casual philosophical chat about it. What we are discussing is an alternative vision of what the future could be. But if this world is going to dramatically improve, then people have to believe that the cost of keeping things the same is a whole lot larger than the cost of change. Right now, most people seem to think that there is no alternative to the way that our world is structured at all, which makes it very difficult for us to address the actual problem of children being abused by their caretakers, who are the number one abusers of children, are their caretakers. I'd just like for it to be possible for us to speak openly about this and to imagine that a better world is possible. You are safe. Even if these ideas feel really scary, there is nothing dangerous about talking about them. Family abolition does not mean a lack of protections and resources for children, but rather an abundance of them.
Okay, so what that means is when the children cease to belong to the parents, then they will belong to the community and they will be everyone's responsibility and they will have access to all of the resources.
One of the things that currently keeps so many children trapped within abusive families is the total absence of any other options. A restrictive society maintains itself by convincing its subjects that they need it, that they need the society to restrict them, and that it is the very grounding in which their life exists. But this is not true. If there were no laws forcing parents to feed and raise their children...
Breaking news, breaking news. Breaking news. We'll go back to this in a second. Breaking news from Colombia. 3 helicopters fly overhead Colombia as NYC Mayor Eric Adams announces NYPD on its way to campus. Who is this? Probably one of the protesters. A reporter. After hundreds of students entered Butler Library at Columbia University to launch a protest in support of Gaza, Columbia announces the entire library is closed and the area must be closed. Public safety has assaulted dozens of protesters so far and is refusing to let people in and out of the building despite an active fire alarm. Oh, that doesn't look dangerous at all. They handcuffed the door. See, if they had handcuffed the door and then just handled it with private security, I probably wouldn't have an issue with this. I just think this is going to colossally backfire. You're telling me these images, this is going to fucking backfire, man. You're telling me these images of Columbia University handcuffing the doors closed? Well, there's a fire alarm going off. are going to rile up the students, because that's what they should be worried about right now. It's not about the 200 people, the 1 to 200 people in the library. It's really not. It's, are we going to rile up the tens of thousands of students that we have on campus 2 weeks before graduation? Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. They're still chanting with the comrades. They've got their signs out. I told you guys they were going to make this kid a martyr. Who predicted that Mahmoud Khalil was going to be made a martyr within 24 hours of him being arrested? Oh, I did. I said Mahmoud Khalil was going to be the next George Floyd, a self-inflicted George Floyd by the Trump administration. Congratulations. No, yo! Columbia will, it's almost like they want to destroy the university, just like I said earlier. Everything I say always ends up being right, almost always. Maybe not 100% of the time, but like 98% of the time, everything I say about the left ends up happening. Oh, here's another one. 2 minutes. An NYPD helicopter is hovering at 725 feet over Columbia University. I wonder why. Long live the Basil al-Ajur. I don't know how to say that. Popular University. Long live this. Long live the student intifada. Intifada means worldwide socialist revolution. Let's read. The Popular University for Gaza is a radical transformation of the university from a site of elite knowledge production into a base for struggle, collective education, and resistance against institutions that fund, legitimize, and profit from genocide. So when they say a site of elite knowledge production, guess what? They mean capitalism. Through sit-ins, encampments, and the disruption of daily operations, it exerts sustained pressure on the university administration to divest from the Zionist entity and forces the reality of genocide in Gaza into the public consciousness. At the original Popular University project in the West Bank, Basil taught about the Palestinian resistance and insisted that knowledge must serve liberation, not empire, so socialism, not collectivism. Today, we teach each other these stories our universities refuse to tell. We teach each other, protect each other, learn with and from each other. The Popular University is not only a demand for divestment, it is a living counter institution, a revolutionary pedagogy in practice, and a declaration that another university and another world is already in formation, because this is not about the Jews. This is about worldwide socialist revolution. Another world is already in formation. They mean the Marxist uprising. That's what Palestine is to them. All right, back to the other thing. Hang on. Every time. I hate to gloat so much, but I'm just right so effing much that, like, and no one listens to me, and I never get an I told you so. I never get a, hey, Karlyn, that thing that I called you crazy for 6 months ago and I said wasn't true. Oh, yeah, it turned out you were right about that. And I go, yeah, no big deal. You're welcome.
Most people would have a strong motivation to care for those around them and to open up their lives to those in need. In fact, it is our property laws and our financial laws, including the ones that say parents own their children, that make it so difficult for people to depend upon.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? What was that? Where is that sentence? In fact, it is our property and financial laws, including the ones that say parents own their children, that makes it so difficult for people to depend upon larger, more independent communities. That's what they believe parental rights is, guys. They believe it's a form of ownership. Again?
Need. In fact, it is our property laws and our financial laws, including the ones that say parents own their children, that make it so difficult for people to depend upon larger, more interdependent communities.
Communism.
Just look to the people of Gaza, who have lost just about everything that most of us in the rest of the world rely upon for meaning and structure. They don't have a functioning state or any kind of political representation. They don't have any laws or anyone to enforce them. Their homes, universities, libraries, museums, shops, mosques, and churches have been destroyed. They've been stuck behind a total Israeli blockade for going on 7 weeks now and running out of the last dregs of food. And still they choose to gather together in bombed out buildings to feed one another, pray, take care of stray cats, and even put on clown costumes and entertain hundreds of other people's orphaned children. This is a picture from Instagram from the account Mohammed.Ibrahim7 _ of a gathering of children in the Gaza Strip and a few adult men dressing in clown costumes to entertain them and just kind of cheer the kids on. And the children are laughing and smiling in the picture, and so are the adults that are entertaining them. And it's just a nice brief respite of relief and joy during a genocide and mass starvation event. If you have the means, I strongly encourage you to go over to Mohammed Ibrahim's Instagram account that I've linked to in the piece and throw him and his community a little bit of money, or go to GazaFunds.com, which will take you to a random Palestinian fundraiser that has been vetted. I know we can't all support everyone, and it can be hard to make these decisions, so you can use that site to have a random number generator make the decision for you of who to give your money to. This is how the average person behaves when there is no legal or social structure in place that prevents them from being pro-social. Even when their life has gone the absolute worst that a person's life can go, and they have every reason to be filled with hateful or antisocial sentiments, the average person feels drawn toward the community, to be of aid to others, and they care about the little lives around them who cannot look after themselves. See also Rebecca Solnit's Faith in Humanity Restoring book, A Paradise Built in Hell. If you're new to anarchism, that book is a really gentle place to start. If children were not the property of their parents,
Bing.
and if helping another person's kid was not seen as an illegal and predatory act the way it is today, children would have numerous safe adults to whom they could turn. There will always be people who feel called by something fundamental inside them to love, feed, comfort, educate, and inspire children. Playing around with children is an intrinsically motivating act. It's fun and helps you melt years of cynicism off your body.
I don't know about that.
Caring for other people in need is itself a core human calling. Why do you think so many child-free people still consider themselves plant dads or boy moms to their cats? It is because even with how much parenthood has become associated with financial and logistical burden in our world, most of us have a nurturing instinct that it feels really meaningful to satisfy. There will be a family for all kids if we abolish the legal family.
Wow.
I promise.
You promise.
This is a screenshot
Pinky
of a
swear, trust
Tumblr
you, bro.
post by me, drdemonprince.tumblr.com. Go there for the really unvarnished takes or for my ask box. And I've written, you don't hate kids. You hate being forced into a caretaking role.
No,
you don't
I hate
hate kids. You hate censorship, past office family values.
No, I hate kids.
You don't hate kids. You hate
Yeah, I
the
do.
constrictiveness of the nuclear family.
No, I hate kids.
You don't hate kids. You're just not used to occupying fully age-diverse spaces.
Nope.
So you're not used to the noise or the many different kinds of needs.
Nope, don't like kids.
You don't hate kids.
Yeah, I
Most
do.
public spaces just aren't built for kids. And so the few kids you see are always uncomfortable and distressed.
I don't know about that.
You don't hate kids. You hate the intense social rules assigned to kids and anyone who interacts
I
with
assure you
kids.
that's not the case. I don't care about that.
You don't hate kids. You hate how society reproduces its most restrictive elements.
I hate how
and
society
kids
reproduces
are powerless
stupidity.
to resist it. Family abolition is part of a larger social project that includes the abolition of prison, forced institutional education, oppressive states, and capitalism.
Yeah! Winning, 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 winning. You don't say. Family abolition is part of a larger social project that includes the abolition of prison, forced institutional education, oppressive states, and capitalism? You don't say. Again, please.
Part of a larger
Hang on, we'll go back a little further.
restrictive elements and how kids are powerless to resist it. Family abolition is part of a larger social project that includes the abolition of prison, forced institutional education, oppressive states, and capitalism.
Mm.
Family abolition isn't just going to happen overnight. All the more reason not to be scared of talking about it. For it to be made possible, a lot about how the world is organized would have to change. This photo is an overhead aerial shot of a suburb with a cul-de-sac, and it has again been glitched and disrupted to look distorted with shades of pink and kind of a sepia tone overlaid over it. Take, for example, the structure of the suburbs, dotted with unwalkable shopping centers and distantly spread apart single-family homes. These communities were built for the white, middle-class, nuclear family of the 1950s. And if your family doesn't look like one of those, then the setup creates a lot of problems for you. Your ailing grandmother can't walk to church for bingo every Tuesday night, so she's trapped at home. It's 3 miles from your door to your kid's school and 1.5 miles to their nearest friend, and so it's almost impossible for them to get educated or socialize without you driving them around, which in turn makes life a lot harder for you. But if we lived in more closely knit and interdependent communities, how we live and build family could radically change. Imagine if more humans lived the way a great many indigenous societies have, and continue to, with a clutch of small homes gathered around a public community space, with separate public buildings for meal preparation, eating, education, and political gatherings that could all be reached on foot. It would be a whole lot easier for a kid to leave their parents' house and go stay with a supportive auntie or a friend's parent if things got hairy in such a setup. And because so many community members would be around and making incidental contact with one another on foot, people would notice when abuse was happening and step in far more quickly. The legal nuclear family is just one of the ways in which people are kept shackled and are heavily indoctrinated by our current society.
Bing.
It's not enough to simply throw open the bars of this particular cage. We would need a world where every person could access the resources they needed, find support, and connect with other people readily. We talk about family abolition because we want to live to see that world and to build it. Here is a link to one of my more recent posts on Substack, Abolish Age. Every person deserves both freedom and support, no matter how long they've been alive. There is a video version of this piece on YouTube.
Yeah, so I can tell you exactly what this means because we watched multiple presentations about adult supremacy. So abolishing age it's a very Scientologist type idea, which basically says children are but adults in little bodies and they are fully functional human beings and can make all their own decisions. Now, people are going to think that means they're pedophiles. I can tell you that's not necessarily what it means. Because I have flat out heard some of these people who want to abolish age talking about how they want to protect kids from sexualization. They don't think kids should be sexualized. That's not the argument they're making. It's more like kids should be involved in decision making around their own thing, sort of thing, and parents shouldn't be able to force them to do anything, which again, you cannot like that argument and that's fine. I just want to be really clear what this is because I know exactly where everyone's mind goes because conservatives have so lied about this issue that everyone's like pedophile, 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 pedophile. That's not what this is. I promise you that's not what this is. So we have to be realistic about that.
YouTube as well. Family abolition is rooted in the belief that human beings can create the solutions to our own problems in an active, ongoing way. Often people criticize child liberation and family abolition by calling them idealistic.
A little bit, yep.
I wonder why exactly that is a bad thing. Why is it a waste of time to talk about how the world might function better? There is no reason to discourage creative and imaginative problem solving unless you think it is impossible for the world to change. Or if you believe, and have been conditioned to believe, that you can play no role in shaping your society. Ours is a profoundly authoritarian world. We rely upon authority figures such as lawmakers and church leaders to tell us what is correct to do. And if we do not follow their instructions, we can be attacked by the police and then locked up. We do not get to weigh in on the rules of our land very much at all. At most, we get to choose between two political representatives that aren't all that different from one another and will not listen to us.
You don't say. You don't like
Our
Democrats?
educators have control over us and decide what is important for us to learn when we are young. The people who raised us also owned us. In such a world, it is easy to see oneself as powerless and to believe that all meaningful change must come from above with perfectly designed intent. Anarchic ideas like child liberation and family abolition challenge all of this. At their core, they presume that individual people are competent and creative. We are the ones who make up society, after all, with our daily work, our habits, and the relationships we build. Society would be nothing without our collective buy-in. We make it every single day, and so we can unmake it. By collectively refusing to follow unjust laws, supporting one another until we are not dependent upon the state anymore, and making decisions every single day about how we want the world to be, we have the power to change things. This is why anarchists generally do not discourage open conversations about what would replace the police if prisons were shut down, schools if education were made less institutional, and the family if it were abolished. We want everyone to be thinking about such things and to never stop asking questions and finding ways society could be improved. We anarchists might give a lot of answers that non-anarchists find frustrating at first, such as saying there won't be as...
Listen, lady. Because, I mean, obviously this is a lady. We can all agree on that, right? Listen, lady, I'm an anarchist, and I think these ideas are fucking crazy.
Much need to protect people against crime in our future world, because people will have greater access to food and shelter, and the vulnerable won't be controlled by powerful others in the ways that allow abuse to exist. But it's also a feature of anarchism that we don't have definitional answers at all. Anarchy challenges you, the reader, to be an active participant in the society in which you live. You are trusted to have valuable insight into where problems like child abuse and predation come from, to be able to do something in real time to prevent them and to address them when they occur. It is idealistic, yes, but it's also aspirational. Anarchism is arguably a kind of anti-politics. Rather than giving over power and responsibility to run society into the hands of a few elected elites, it gives it all right back to you. It is a process of constant reflection, decision-making, and reevaluating. And it's meant to be so fluid that if any one solution does not work, then the people are always empowered to try something new. This complete freedom to direct one's own destiny is scary if you are not used to it, just as talk of abolishing the family is. It's uncomfortable to hold true responsibility for your actions. But it also means that your fate is yours again, and that you can always make the right choice. You can be the person to take in an orphan child off the street. You can be the one who speaks up when you see a caretaker striking a young person. You can decide to speak to young queer kids about their history or how to practice safer sex. And if you see someone repeatedly abusing their power over children, you and your community can step in and make it stop. I understand if that sounds like too much to carry right now. That's okay. Sometimes it also overwhelms me. But stay here in this conversation with me. Keep criticizing the ideas. Keep speaking to your discomfort and hesitations. Don't ever stop exploring. Don't ever believe that this world cannot change. If you'd like to read more about anarchism and family abolition, I recommend the following sources, also listed in the Substack. Toward the Abolition of the Family, Why We Demand It and Why It Matters by Lee Sekuda on Medium, also known as Butch Anarchist,
Butch
on
anarchist.
all social media. The Debate Anarchism subreddit, so r/debate anarchism. Great place to ask questions and fight and have that be welcomed. I've linked also to the Anarchist Library's writings on child liberation. There's a huge volume of stuff there.
There is a huge volume of stuff
I've included
there.
on Substack a link to the PDF of Lee
True.
Edelman's book, No Future, so you can download that book right there.
Oh,
And
cool. That's
also, I
convenient.
included links to access all the other books I mentioned on libgen.is, which is a
Mizakan.
place where you can get books for free.
Mizakan. He's given us the key. I'm sorry, they, them. I misgendered earlier. I apologize now. Now, I didn't realize they gave us free PDFs to these books that they want us to read.
And if you're interested in learning more about supported decision-making, a model that allows for disabled individuals, and potentially maybe children, to advocate for themselves while still receiving guidance and being informed of their options by a supporter of their choosing, here are some journal articles you might enjoy, and I've attached those PDFs to the Substack. Supportive Decision-Making, a Viable Alternative to Guardianship, Supporting Choices, Supported Decision-Making in Practice, Beyond Supported Decision-Making, the Need for Supported Engagement for Neurodivergent Adults. Check all of those resources out if you are interested in this stuff. It's a rich vein to be diving into. Again, it's still very much a niche community that a lot of passionate, very left-wing, anti-establishment types are having. We could always use more people having these conversations and sharing what resources they have. Unschoolers, disability advocate types, anybody who's interested in liberatory approaches, prison abolitionists, police abolitionists, anybody in that vein, you are so welcome in these conversations. And as well as people who think that these ideas sound crazy and whack and unrealistic, because that is how I initially felt.
Crack is
as well.
whack, yo.
Let's dive into the comments, see if there's anything worth responding to while I'm here. Cleo Bricks said, I always wonder how much of people's reluctance to ponder what a better world might look like is rooted in the fact that having an idea of what could be makes it much harder to casually shrug off what is. Denial is a potent force, but it's only an anxiolytic, not a cure proper. One that only works, for a very, very generous definition of works, if the notion that there's no alternative is not questioned. Well said, Cleo. Cleo has a great Substack as well, if I recall correctly. I believe I follow them. And I think that's completely spot on, that people reject ideas of abolition in general because if they were to admit how wrong the present society is, it would make them just itch with existential discomfort. And so it's easier to believe that this is all that there is, that these structures of power are inarguable and inescapable. Sometimes dreaming of a better
like
world
capitalism?
just makes you ache for it so much that it's really hard to contend with. Shout out to the Leftist Cooks here on YouTube. They just had a video about being told to grow up and what that means, and the hatred of children that is really endemic in our society. I just found their channel and it's really great. So we seem to be operating on similar wavelengths right now, and it's great to see. Zoe said, I'm just back from a family vacation. The family in question is myself and my partner, their kid and their co-parent, their co-parents, two partners, their kids' best friends, and her two parents. My partner's kid decided a few years ago, age 12.
All right. I don't
that he
care
wanted
about the
to move in.
comments. I don't care. I don't care. Sorry. We've heard the important stuff, I think. And I have a breaking news update. Breaking news. I want to show people my knitting. and then we'll do a Columbia update. So this is the knitting that I'm working on. I had to take a good picture of it because I can't show it really on the screen. So I've got the center square done, and basically the line starts really thick and it gets thinner out. So it's like doing like a puddle thing where it's like, so I don't know if that looks cool. I think it looks pretty cool. And now what I'm doing is I'm doing a big fuck off black line around one side, and then I'll eventually do the other side too. And what this is I'm going to do a big, like this is going to be probably double the size of it. And then I'm going to do some white stripes in there. So it's going to look like chevrons, and it's going to come off on both sides. So that is what I'm working on for people who are wondering. I know everyone was like waiting at bated breath to find out what I'm knitting, and it is a black and white shawl, courtesy of the yarn that Judy sent me for my birthday, which is awesome. Let's go to Columbia. Are there any Columbia breaking news updates before we I think we can wrap up today. We're going to be doing a lot of streaming tomorrow, so I think we can wrap up today, but let's be responsible. What's going on at Columbia? Let's see. No, nothing from, oh, here we go. Message from the students inside. Despite over 3 hours of kettling and assault by the Columbia Public Safety, we continue to hold the line. We are facing one of the largest militarized police forces in the world. Deputized public safety officers have choked us, beaten us, but we have not wavered. We refuse to show our IDs under militarized arrest. We refuse to go down quietly. We will not be useless intellectuals. Palestine is our compass, and we will stand strong in the face of violent oppression. All right. Well, Columbia is about to get set on fire again. That's just great. Maybe there'll be some good live streams tonight. I guess pay attention to the Twitters, pay attention to Columbia. Like I bet you there's going to be another police raid tonight. It might be really exciting. Maybe you guys know how we wanted to see the fire hose really badly the other day. Maybe the fire hose will come out. Maybe we'll see some students get the shit kicked out of them. I wouldn't be like, listen, man, I mean, not to sound unsympathetic, but like, I actually wouldn't mind watching some of these kids get the shit kicked out of them on live TV because they kind of deserve it. I don't wish violence on anyone, but like, you're being a pain in the ass, okay? Like, it's finals. You're going into a library beating drums and yelling, and you've been yelling about the same thing for 2 effing years. And it's like, at some point, one of these assholes has just got to get punched in the face. Seriously. I'm not saying that's going to stop things. I'm not even saying that's a good decision. It's probably going to make things so much worse. In fact, that's actually better for us. If things get worse, that will be more stuff for us to watch. I'm not saying I wish that. Obviously, I want to solve the problem. But if places like Columbia are going to make stupid decisions, we may as well enjoy the entertainment that it offers us, because that's all we can do. That's all we can do is enjoy the show. All right, guys, I mentioned it earlier, but do want to remind people, we will be doing 2 spy streams tomorrow. How you find out what spy stream we're doing is you go to decodetheleft.com/events. We have 2 spy streams tomorrow. Our first spy stream is going to start at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I will send out info on the Substack. That is going to be more lefty man-hating goodness. And then we're going to do Counter-Revolutionary Book Club, where if you go over to my Substack, that is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, click on Book Club, you will find the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club. We are reading a document called Queering Anarchism. It is in this file, the dystopian documents queer and gender activists are reading. Scroll down, and you will find Queering Anarchism. That is a book of anarchist writings. We will be continuing our read on that. We've taken a couple weeks off from it because we have other stuff to do, but we are returning tomorrow to Queering Anarchism. I don't even remember where we left off, but there's so much crazy shit in this book. You're not going to be disappointed. And so you can catch up on past episodes of the Counter-Revolutionary Book Club there. And then we are coming back to Spy Stream for a May Day debrief tomorrow evening, and that's going to be a public spy stream. And then on Friday, we have leftist lecture about gender and sexuality, and that is at a major F-off university that you have all heard of, and that's going to be on Friday. and that is our last spy stream of the week. So it's a 5 spy stream type of week. And if you want to join us for spy stream, which is when we go inside a live leftist training and we talk about it, head over to the Substack, sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. You can also become a supporter on Locals, Patreon, Twitter subscriber, or YouTube channel member, and you will get invited to spy stream. And with that, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. I'm going to go try to find out what's going on at Columbia, see if there's a live stream anywhere. If anyone finds a live stream for Columbia, please do let me know. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
To give you some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.